me every time. I don't listen to it because we're recording this after that was put in. But sometimes when I listen back to the podcast, every time.
Every time.
Sometimes every time. Welcome everybody to Sharpen That Axe, a weekly podcast dedicated to strengthening your skills as a guitar player. I'm Dylan Murphy, and joined with me as always is
John Gillen.
Yeah, good banter there, John.
Ooh, I'm working on it.
So John, we are finished class as part of our masters.
Sweet merciful Jesus, thank you.
And we have time. We have free time free time. It's still time that we should be devoting to assignments and theses, plural of thesis and whatnot. But it's great. And we still, apologies to everybody. We were up to our eyeballs last week. So last week's episode was out a few days late, but that's down to both of us just having too much going on.
But that's okay. This will not be the case this week because you are now listening to this hopefully on Thursday.
Yeah, which exactly. Is we're not going to reveal how many days away, but it's soon.
Yeah, sooner than we'd like to admit.
So, folks, we're going to start off as always with pedal talk, and as opposed to going through a different type of pedal as we have been doing, we're going to talk about what's the next pedal we're going to buy, and possibly doing this because we haven't prepared anything else. And we literally came up with this about 10 seconds ago.
So, Mr. Murphy, I'd like to hear your first selection there.
My first selection, which means that there's possibly plural selections. Things I want, John. I'm a picky man. But
only a few. But
I suppose the next thing I want is a good solo boost, because I've got my drive down. I've got Maddie's purloined blues driver, which I will give back or buy off him. We're in talks. So I was thinking for my negotiations.
You can have it every second weekend?
Every second weekend. Okay. It's the stepchild. The blue distorted stepchild. So I'm thinking of now getting a good solo boost because I've got a bunch of gigs coming up with Stephen Sharp and by myself. And I've got a few tasty solos in there that I would like up there. So I was thinking I might bounce some things off you. I'm either thinking of getting the Electro-Harmonic Soul Food, which is supposed to be like a nice like treble-y kind of boost, or maybe going for trying to find a cheap tube screamer on adverts for as cheap as I can afford, But I don't know. I'm torn between those two. Have you any preferences for boosting solos? What would you use?
I do like the RC booster, personally. As I've said before, that is the one that I have.
John, I am made of flesh and bone and not money, I'm afraid.
I actually don't know what the RC booster is running right now.
Or I'd love. See, the thing is, I'd love the EP booster, which is made by the same brand.
Yeah.
But I know that if I got that, I'd just keep it on the whole time.
Yeah,
because it just sounds so.
That's what I do with the RC booster.
Yeah, there you go.
So.
Why the RC booster? What drew you to that?
I've heard some complaints about the Electro-Harmonics not necessarily being as true bypass as they claim.
Oh.
So even when it's off, it might color your tone a little bit, if that's a concern.
But just for the uninitiated and not just me, can you explain what is true bypass in 30 words or less?
True bypass is going to be when you step on that box and you turn it off, that the signal is not colored by the pedal, by the circuitry in the pedal. So older pedals and sometimes cheaper pedals will still color your tone. It'll still affect the sound even when the pedal is off. So true bypass tends to be a concern if you're really focused on what your guitar is going to sound like, the tone, the tone monster that we're always chasing.
Yes.
I think it was the Indiana Jones statue that we referenced in one of the earlier episodes.
The tone dragon, yes. Chasing that.
Chasing the tone dragon. I like that.
Yeah.
Down in the tone den.
Oh. More drug metaphors. Pick your favorite. That's good. Thank you, John. Thank you for that very informative thing. How about you? What are you looking for?
So I'd kind of want a fun chorus pedal.
Oh.
So now I've said before, I have the Arian chorus, which has some great fun things and kind of like maybe a good SRV tone or some of those classic like warbly 90s sounds. But I kind of have my eyes on the C Machine from Earthquaker Devices.
Oh.
So I've said before, I have a couple of Earthquaker pedals and they're fun, but they're also like crazy weird. So the C Machine anyway has your standard controls, things like the shape of the wave and the rate and the intensity and all that sort of thing. But it's got a couple other things where it has sort of some echo properties to it, which can be fun to play around with and get sort of like a slap back feel on your chorus pedal, as well as kind of some delays that just kind of continue to build as you go. And then the other thing that's pretty interesting is that it has this hybrid circuitry that just gives you a whole lot more control over just kind of the sound and other things like pitch shift that you have in there as well.
That sounds pretty good.
It's crazy. You should check out some of the videos for it because there's just some bonkers sounds you can get out of it.
Chorus is one of those pedals that really seems to divide people, but I don't know. There's got a lot of hate, but it depends on how you use it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. Occasionally for a bit of depth, I think can really create a nice feel. Or if you're looking for something that's kind of shoegazer type music,
good God,
or ambient sounds that it fills in the space nicely, I think.
Okay.
I personally don't use it a whole lot for lead playing, but if that's something you prefer, then go for it.
Oh God. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe. Probably not.
Yeah, if you're thinking like 80s Whitesnake, then
Which I always am, John. Haven't you seen my leather pants that I'm wearing right now?
They're snakeskin pants. They're snakeskin pants. Yeah.
A lot of snakes died for these pants. So we're.
I've seen your David Coverdale wig.
Yeah.
I know.
Here I go again. So moving on to our main topic today, which is something different as opposed to talking about how to improve as a player. We're going to talk a little bit about 3 players each that have influenced us, and we haven't ran them by each other. So maybe we'll have the same players. We definitely won't have the same players.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
But I do think it sort of plays off what we were talking about last week anyway, staying motivated.
Yeah.
And so for me, it always helps to find somebody different to listen to find a different perspective or a different thing to work on. So that's one of the things that helps. So I think it's a good segue from last week into this week.
Yeah. Good segue scooter into this week. So
thank you, Paul Blart.
Getting the ball rolling. Who's your first pick?
Oh, you're gonna throw it on me first.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go. Okay, you could probably guess, but I'm gonna go with Steve Vai. So Steve Vai was my. He was not the first.
Why?
He was not the first person that got me into guitar, but one of the first players that showed me like this is what you could really do with an instrument.
You're referring, of course, to his movie Crossroads, in which he plays the devil's guitar player.
And Ralph Macchio's hands.
Was he also Ralph Macchio?
The music that Ralph Macchio played was either him or I think was it Buddy Guy? Was that the other guy in there?
Yeah, could be.
So yeah, for instance, in the Duel.
Yeah.
That Eugene's trick bag is Steve Vai playing. And if you watch carefully, like Macchio's hands are sort of slapping around the fingerboard like sausages, just jumping up and down the fretboard. Yeah. So it's insane.
What about Vi is it that you like?
Well, the song that I picked that kind of stood out to me the first time I heard it was Animal, off of the Passion and Warfare album. And the intro is just huge, and it has this driving beat. But one of the things that's kind of cool about it, I thought, was this idea that everything sort of drops out, and he has these tiny little riffs and these tiny little licks where he shows off, and then that big riff from the beginning comes back.
Okay.
So it's a whole lot of contrast, but with the purpose of kind of showing off a fancy lick, and then it goes away, and then it's back to showing off this fancy lick. The thing is like learning it though makes it. It's one of those things that you can just take a little bit and you can say, I want to learn how to do that. And you can pull out a lick and go, okay, that's what it is. There's a lot of different arpeggios. There's some tapping riffs in there, all these sorts of things. You can just pick something to learn and take something from it. Juice is really the same way. I've talked about how I was working on that. Yeah. Like it's a main riff, and then he has a little filler thing in between that is a different technique that's worth breaking down and figuring out what he's doing. So, yeah, just fun to pick apart and learn. And yeah, what about yourself?
So I suppose if we're staying in the shred realm, my favorite guitar player, well, one of my favorite guitar players for a long time has been Dimebag Darrell, and I am way past my grungy black hoodie wearing t-shirt you know, t-shirt with a big Korn album on it.
Wow.
Days. But at the same time, he is the best metal guitar player, in my opinion, just in terms of playing the rhythm and then the solos. I listened to the live album recently, and it's just ridiculous. And he makes it seem so effortless. And I think it's one thing I really like about his playing is that whenever you listen to a Pantera song, when it's time for the solo, there's no rhythm guitar. It's just bass and drums, and he doesn't need to fill it out because the solo is enough. So very good.
It's all Dimebag.
It is all Dimebag, and just the riffing, and you could tell like he grew up in a studio, and you can just tell by how fluid his technique is. I got into Pantera maybe 15 or 16, and just Kirk Hammett got nothing on Dimebag. If I had to pick a song, goodness gracious, that solo, I recently tried to pick apart as well the solo from Cowboys from Hell, and it's just the runs. It's insane. It's just, but it's great. All four fingers, incredible. And the legato, no better legato.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
In the world of metal. Next choice from you.
Okay, back to me. All right, so I'm going to keep going with this shred theme. So next.
Quelle surprise.
Yeah, right? So actually, I think the last one might surprise you, but we're not there yet.
We're not.
So I'm going to go with Tosin Abasi.
Oh.
Yeah.
Animals as leaders.
Yeah. As leaders.
I
have nothing on that. So anyway,
right.
Yeah, but for me, Animals as Leaders was kind of a big surprise, just because I was studying a whole bunch of like classical and jazz at the time. I was in my undergrad, and
for the uninitiated, can you explain what is Animals as Leaders?
Animals as Leaders is 2 guitar players with 8-string guitars, and then a wicked
6 ain't
drummer.
enough, y'all.
Yeah, it's. So they're instrumental. They're usually classified as like gent. So though gent tends to be a massive umbrella. So but a lot of polyrhythmic stuff. They incorporate a lot of different elements. And what I was saying was when I got into them, what struck me was I heard all the elements of the stuff that I was working on in the classical and jazz.
Okay, just
stuff.
popping up right there. Okay.
Exactly, in kind of a very distinct idiom. So it had elements of metal, of course, but at the same time, progressive metal, I guess, would probably be a better way to call it. But at the same time, there were these jazz chords, there were these moving bass lines, like in a classical piece, and all of this going on. Just the finger picking, the arpeggios and that sort of thing. So it was kind of cool to hear the stuff I was working on, but in sort of a new format, and something that to me honestly was a little bit more relatable. Like I said, Steve Vai was a pretty early influence. And Steve Vai talked about jazz. He went to Berklee School of Music and all that stuff, but you pick up less of it, I think, in his playing.
Yeah.
But if you listen to that first record from Animals as Leaders, you can hear a lot more of these elements kind of crossing into Tosin's playing. And the song that that's probably my favorite off of that album would be On Impulse. Great melody, intro part. It's kind of this arpeggio thing that sort of slips and slides up the neck. And then the solo is just like choice melodic notes. It's not necessarily like crazy shred. It's just like, it's a singable melody that you can take with you, and you wouldn't necessarily expect. When people say Animals as Leaders, everyone thinks of CAFO from that album. Yeah. Which is just, it opens with this insane barrage of sweep picking. Yeah. But this is taking all of those other elements, On Impulse does, and just has this great melodic line right in the middle of it that just rings through the rest of the song, and it's fantastic. So it's good song construction, but incorporates a lot of technical elements as well. So
savage. That sounds great.
Tosin Abasi.
I'm going to go a completely different route for my next one.
Good.
Picking 3 was hard. We were saying this earlier, picking 3 guitar players, but there's of course like dozens of guitar players that have influenced us. But yeah, my next one is because I have played guitar for a very flamboyant frontman, Mick Ronson. From David Bowie's band.
Okay.
For the first few, like David Bowie has had a multitude of amazing guitar players. He's had Nile Rodgers, and he's had what's his name from King Crimson? Robert Tripp.
Yeah.
Robert he played with him for a while. Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course. But it all kind of comes back to Mick Ronson. He took all these great pop songs and he was just able to add the perfect amount of lead playing and riffs just to really, really play for the song. I found that when you're playing for other people's songs, you kind of have to pick what's best. And his playing on the Ziggy Stardust album, as well as Hunky Dory, is just so tasteful. I think the song Ziggy Stardust just has the perfect lead playing throughout the verses that really color what the acoustic guitar is doing, which is just strumming chords.
Yeah.
But he just picks the right notes for the song. And then, I mean, Moon Age Daydream, he's got that outro, which is just Les Paul wailing into the cosmos. And it's just so good. So I think as far as accompanying guitar players go, he's got to be my favorite. Really, really like what he does.
Very cool.
And your last choice.
Oh, my last
knock
choice.
me off guard.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to go with, it's still a really nerdy pick. So
It was always going to be, John.
Yeah. Was there ever any doubt? I decided to go with Barney Kessel. So a jazz player.
Okay.
If you're not familiar with him, go
I'm
ahead
not, John.
and check it out.
I'm a Philistine.
But there's some great YouTube videos of him playing some solos that just are mind-meltingly fast. So a lot of people, a lot of the techniques that sort of became popular in the 80s with the shred guitar players, the thing that people don't realize is that there were loads of jazz guitar players doing the exact same thing in the 60s. So, and Barney Kessel was one of the ones that sort of opened my eyes to that, and to be able to see, like, holy cow, this is amazing. Yeah, just the right hand, the left hand speed. But the other thing that a lot of these guys could do was these chord melodies. So playing the chords and sticking that melody in the top line and being able to see the guitar in more ways than just block chords and then a scalar solo sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that's something that's really common in terms of a classical piece, and if you understand what's going on in a classical piece. But the thing about a chord melody is there is more elements to it that are off the cuff. They're still very carefully arranged and rehearsed, but Barney Kessel's Autumn Leaves was one that I had to transcribe for a guitar lesson. And learned a tremendous amount, and so I definitely appreciate what he had and what he did as a guitar player, and made me think about the instrument a little bit differently as well. So kind of changed my concept of how chords work together in different contexts, and what you can substitute and borrow and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
cool. I always love hearing what different people do with Autumn Leaves, so I must check that out.
It's obviously it's a really common one, and everybody does a version of it, so there's always something to say, okay, that person does something different, but whether you love the song or hate the song, because if you've ever been in a jazz band, you've played that song.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a good tune, just as a reference point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't play jazz, but I've learned it just because I felt like if I had to learn, I've learned a few standards, and it was very helpful. So cool. I must check that out, see what he does.
Indubitably.
Indubitably.
All right, now the last one. Do we have a drum roll?
We don't. Well, oh God, no, that would be unnecessary. But I picked being the awkward hipster indie kid who is currently rocking a Neutral Milk Hotel T-shirt during this Friday, which is guitar sacrilege. Yes. But I'm actually going to go with Isaac Brock from the band Modest Mouse. Now, I really liked him as a guitar player because I have a real thing about 3-piece bands, and I find that seeing a guitarist's place in a 3-piece band, and sure, you've got like Nirvana and Motorhead and The Police, and seeing what all their guitar players do. But what Isaac Brock does is he does a lot with very little. He's not a shredder. He's not he doesn't even like play blues licks or anything like that. He just plays for the song. He comes up with these great songs. Maybe it's just because I like his songwriting a lot, but he is great at using space between notes. Some of the songs will just go on these massive winding outros where a note placement is very very important, kind of like a good Pixies song, but it's consistency. And he can write some great riffs. Like he can take a 3-chord, like Float On is probably the best example of he can just make a really catchy guitar riff. Modest Mouse Live is a very divisive thing because the guitars that he plays notoriously go out of tune very, very easily. He has
Such as like what does he play?
I don't know. It's like a custom thing. Like you go onto the guitar sites, the guitar's website. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but you go onto their website and it's like the Isaac Brock signature model. We don't really sell many other things. They're basically known for being his guitars, but they're so thin that for bends, he just like pushes on the body and gets all these mad sounds out of it.
Cool.
And I just like what he does for within the indie rock sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's good. He doesn't do like the straight 8-note indie thing. He does his own thing, which I dig it wholesale. So that's us for our players.
Yeah.
It's been very informative. Think about who you've been listening to and send them into us. But now we're going to go on to what have we been working on? Or what have we been listening to?
Well, we could do what we've been listening to.
What we've been listening to?
Sure. Well, since just kind of in preparation for this talk about who we would be listening to or who influenced us, I kind of went back and I did revisit Passion and Warfare, then from Steve Vai.
All the way back.
1990. Oh. So, yeah.
That album is as old as me. So very good.
Yeah. So lots of interesting riffs off of that thing. He still plays a lot of those, and I think he's doing like a 27 year or 30. I don't know.
That sounds like something Steve Vai would do. I'm going to pick this really random number and I'm going to tour.
Or maybe he did it a couple of years ago. That might have been it. Anyway, possibly. Yeah, but just kind of a good album to go back and revisit.
Badass.
And yourself?
I went to see I think they call themselves queer rock and roll band called Power Bottom in Dublin on Monday, as part of a 3 or 4 day drinking session from having finished here. And I gotta say the guitar playing is really, really cool. There's a lot of tapping, a lot of just cool riffs, and it's very 90s influenced. And I hate saying that about bands because I find that very few bands can actually pull off the whole 90s influence thing.
Right.
But they do it really well. And I'm going to see one of my favorite bands this weekend for the 4th time called And So I Watch You From Afar. Oh. And those guys are just riff freaks. So really looking forward to seeing them again. So been listening to them a lot again.
Excellent.
Yeah. Just like when you have song titles like Set Guitars to Kill, you need to back that up with some riffs, which they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unreal. And what have you been working on guitar-wise?
Oh, okay. So this last week, and it was actually something from you mentioned something about legato. I don't remember what it was.
Shy Boy.
Oh, that's right. So I kind of dug a few things out, and I have this Satriani legato riff that goes up and down all 6 strings. Oh. Yeah, I think I pulled it out of a book ages ago, and I think it's based on something from Not of This Earth, which was like his first album. And it's
this cocky title,
yeah.
honestly.
Well, he's also all about the aliens.
Yeah, too. I know, but
it's and I maybe he is an alien. I don't know if he thinks that, but
kind of looks like an alien. Don't sue us, Joe Satriani. We don't have any money until we get sponsorship.
Yes,
from Casper mattresses.
So anyway, that sort of legato thing. Of course, like Alan Holdsworth, inspiration for that too. If you don't know who Alan Holdsworth is,
is he the guy who plays the guitars with don't have any headstocks?
The Steinbergers. He did for ages.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still does, but he's really known for his legato riffs, and some of his music is hard to listen to, but just an insane player. So if nothing else, YouTube a video of him in a masterclass just tearing it apart. So and then the tapping intro to Steve Vai's Building the Church.
Oh, I must check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. 2-handed thing. He's got a little video too where he talks about the process of learning that, and I think he hits on some really good points of being patient and taking your time with something. So if Steve Vai is telling you to be patient with a riff and take your time, be patient and take your time, even with your own riffs. So,
well, fair play. Well, I've been kind of trying to take all the solos that I wanted to play when I was really young and impatient, and now that I actually have some amount of finger skillage, I am taking them on. And they're not the most difficult solos in the world, but they're the ones that I grew up going,
if only I could play this.
If only I could play this. And now I can. So I've just finished basically learning all of The Unforgiven by Kirk Hammett, the first and only ever Kirk Hammett A minor. So
the rest are in E minor, if you're wondering.
All the rest, or E flat minor, or Saint Anger, C sharp. Who gives a crap?
It's just tuned down. He still plays it in the same position.
No, there were no solos on that album. It's just, anyway. And the next one I'm going to try, which I will let you know how it goes next week, is the My Sharona solo. Which, it's just so good.
It's amazing.
It's so good. Like, I honestly think it's up there with, like, Sweet Child of Mine as, like, just a beautifully, perfectly constructed solo.
I hate Sweet Child of Mine.
I know, but you're a guitar teacher for the last 10 years. Of course you hate Sweet Child of Mine. So I think that's us for today, folks.
I think so.
Yeah, well, remember, stay sharp, and we will see you again next week. I've been Dylan Murphy.
And I'm John Gillen.
Stay sharp, my friends.